Hey guys, Tom here.
And I'm Declan.
And we're back. After a little bit of an absence, Declan had some strep throat that he had to deal with.
So bad.
Which was not great. But we are back this week and we've got a couple things we're going to work on. I am going to be starting to assemble the Quick Performance 9-inch rear end that I'm going to put into the Chevelle. So that takes some prep work and some pre-assembly. I'm going to show you guys what I'm doing there to get that to happen. But first, we're going to fix a little hissing snake problem that Declan has inside the Camaro. You guys may recall that right after we got the Camaro running last year, we had to rehook up the vacuum tubes to the vent system to get that to change from defroster to floor to dash vents, etc. We did fix that. It works now and it changes. But basically, if you have the vent on,
don't use that. I don't.
Yeah, if you have the vent on anything, it's a really loud hissing sound, which is of course because the whole thing works on vacuum. And there's a component in there that is kind of shot. So I've done some digging around on the 3rd gen forums and found out that this is a part that you really can't find anymore. Nobody makes it new or remakes it. But there is a way that we can hopefully fix it a little bit. So
Hopefully.
Yeah, we're going to take you through that and see if we can make that work. We'll see. All right, let's get in the car. All right, so at this point, I've been inside this thing quite enough already and don't wish to do it again. So you're going to take apart. I think hoping we just need to take this off.
Why are you acting like I've never touched this thing? I spent like 3 hours on this.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't done this before, again, these are number 15 Torx screws. It's the good part about the Camaro is even though there's 15 million screws to take out, they are easy to get to. It's not like we have these blind fasteners that get us in trouble. So it's not a bad thing.
Is this a fake one?
It's not fake. I just don't know whether it's actually biting into anything. I can't remember whether I replaced something there or not. There's definitely a couple of these screws that are not really biting into as much as they should or anything at all.
Yeah, I don't think that's...
So while Declan's doing this, I'll just explain to you guys that the temperature control down here is what we're working on. And it's this lever on the top that's actually the specific issue. So you'll see once we take this off what that's leading to and what that gets us at. But that's all controlled by vacuum. So there's a vacuum line that's going into that's feeding off of the engine, off the manifold. And that's basically what's powering the vent doors. I think modern cars wouldn't use the vacuum. They'd have little electric motors to do that. But this is sort of at the tail end of using vacuum to make that happen instead of just cables. So I'm going to take that bezel off and we might end up having to pop out the radio. I'm not sure. But let's try just doing this. We're going to need... I forget which size this is. Let's see, we got to take out, we got 3 screws in there, nuts, bolts. I think those are metric. I think it might be 7 or 8. All right, so now let's see if you can pull that out. Just be careful.
Kind of as far as it goes out.
That's as far as it's moving. So, hold on. So our culprit is, let me see if I can hold the light and do this. Our culprit is right here, this little disc. So you can see as you switch the lever at the top here, it's got a little cam on it that's moving that like a locomotive wheel, right? That piece is what's shot. So we need to get that piece out of there in order to be able to fix it. It's one of these. Oh, look at that magnetic tip. Oh, where'd it go? Right there. Boom. Okay, so now there. So that's the vacuum tube sort of assembly thing. That's the harness. So now I think we can get this thing out of here. Here we go. Okay, we got it out, but lost the spring, so hang on a second. Got it. All right, now let's get this thing to a bench where we can see what's going on. So this is the part in question. And basically the way that this works is these are your vacuum ports. So those are all going to the different controls to open and close the doors. And then inside here, this is basically this little labyrinth. This, depending upon which way it's turned, leads the vacuum from one of these ports to another. So it's sort of making connections and closings as you turn it. So, and this is that little cam that's the switch is pushing it on. So as you rotate this, it changes which of these become active. Now, there is supposed to be a piece that goes through here and snaps in. It's a little spear, like a little plastic snap-in piece, and that's what holds this tight and keeps it spinning. It is clearly gone, and it's missing. The rubber still feels, you can feel it. It still feels pretty supple. It doesn't feel like the rubber is, you know, hard and cracked and shot. So I think we'll still be able to use the rubber. These pieces used on eBay. Care to take a guess at how much this little part sells for?
300.
That's exactly what it sells for.
You told me that.
Oh, I told you. All right. Yeah, so $300 for this stupid thing used on eBay. So no, we'll rig up pulleys, and I'll have you blowing through a straw to change the things before we spend $300 on this. So what we're going to do now is this little spring goes on the back like so, and that is the thing that adds tension to that little button once it's holding it all together. So I suspect what was happening was because that little post wasn't there, there was no pressure being held here, so this thing was open. So you were getting a vacuum leak, basically. So we're going to fix the vacuum leak by finding a screw that's going to go through here and a nut that'll go through there. And hopefully we can get this thing on track again. Sound good?
Hopefully.
So I'm just going to give this thing a little wipe down with like rubber / interior cleaner. This is mostly just to make sure it stays soft. All right, so what's interesting about this thing is that this has to be very directional, right? But it's got little bumps on it, and these are keyed, so that's a bigger one than that. So it's only going to go in one way, as long as you're paying attention. So it only fits into this piece one way. And then this is a directional piece in and of itself. I believe that side was up. So I think now if we drop that screw through here that way, drop the spring through that way, and then we just have to be careful about how tight we tighten this. I think if we go too tight, it ends up like choking it off, and you won't be able to turn this. But test it. That feels right to me.
Yeah.
Feels smooth still, right? But like tight. All right. You want to go with this then?
Yeah.
See if that works.
Let's see.
All right. Let's give her a shot. Well, it's not like you needed proof that I'm not a pro YouTuber, but, you know, here it is. So we set up the iPhone on the console to film us reinstalling this, and apparently both of us forgot to hit the record button. So we didn't get any of this footage of us reassembling this back in. But I can tell you it's pretty much just the reverse of what we did to take it out. There are 2 screws that go through the underside on a little brace that hold that thing into place. And then we have to slide the assembly, the connector, which is sort of a little silicone job, over the posts on the assembly that we just fixed. It's a relatively simple job. The only thing you have to watch out for is there are 2 sort of press washers that go on posts that hold this disc assembly in place. So we had carefully held those aside after I carefully pried them off and pushed them back on again. I think they're going to be fine. I don't think you're going to have to completely replace them or get new ones. It's a relatively simple process, but everything's small and it's in a tight space. And so this was just a lot of us fumbling around and dropping screws and having to go and find them. But ultimately, you guys should find it pretty simple to go ahead and reassemble this and get it in place. Moment of truth.
What do you turn on to? Normal?
I don't hear it. No hissing. That's not going to close.
Right. All right.
I mean, we'd be hearing it by now. Well, for copyright reasons, we'll have to cut that music out.
It was like 3 seconds, I think.
Yeah, but it stops.
So it's just for a second?
Yeah. I think that's as the system's adjusting. I think that's normal.
Oh, okay.
I think it's fixed, dude.
Okay.
Who's happy? Yeah, good. All right, that's done. We can shut it off now. All right, so I thought we were done. It was working. And then in my genius, what did I suggest?
Why don't we put the stuff in the trunk?
Yeah. So he got a bunch of stuff for Christmas, you know, trunk organizers, toolkits, stuff like that. And it all has just been like sitting in your back seat. And I was like, let's throw them in the trunk. That all went great until we went to close the trunk. And that's when the worst designed feature just let go. I mean, it grenaded. There's just not much left. In fact, there's just a lot of shrapnel and pieces of plastic left. I mean, first and foremost, why do I need the self-closing thing? Is it really that hard to slam the trunk? I mean, you have to close it anyway before the self-closing mechanism takes that hook and brings the thing down. So I don't really see the great convenience point in it. But secondly, and more importantly, it's not a fail-safe system, right? I got no problem with fail-safe systems where if the system goes down, everything still can work, it's just in a manual way. That is not the case with this. Once this mechanism fails and it doesn't work anymore, you can't close your trunk. There's just no way to get it to close. It won't latch, it won't hook in because the mechanism is actually a motor. This is very elaborate. That the latch mechanism is attached to, and the entire motor assembly moves down a track to pull the hood down. This is silly. It's absolutely nuts, but you know, it's what we got and we have to deal with it. So let me show you what happened. This is the old unit. This is only part of the problem. This is the actual motor. Inside that hole in there, there's a gear. That gear spins and it basically drives this thing up and down, right, on part of the assembly. Well, the entire plastic housing on this thing just detonated. And that plastic housing is how you actually mount this to the assembly. So if this can't mount, then the motor can't stay, can't drive the thing up and down. That's all done. But there was more damage. And I've really just got pieces and parts. It's like shrapnel that's left in here. Everything just disintegrated. Inside of these tracks, this is what that whole assembly rides in. There are supposed to be plastic guides in here. Those disintegrated too. So we had to get some new plastic guides as well. So luckily, we managed to find stuff on Amazon. So the pieces that we needed were the new guides. And the new motor. Technically, we needed a new motor housing because the motor was actually fine, but they all come together. And I managed to find, I mean, I don't know what kind of foreign nonsense this is. It probably got made in a factory where they also make baby food and tires, but it was cheap and they were able to overnight it on Amazon. So one day and it got here. And so now we're going to get this back on and hopefully all together and working. So let's get on that. All right, so I think the first thing we got to do is get the new motor on. So the way this whole thing works is this is the brace for the motor. So this is what the motor attaches to. So let's see, I've got some screws here. I think it's those two. And this goes inside that gearing.
So this is that, but shattered?
Yeah. All right, there's 3 holes, but I think it was only 2 that we used. Yeah, those 2 on the outside angle. Whoa, hey, why'd you do that? All right, you want to try to put that on while I hold this apart?
I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yep, that's right. Just like that. There we go. That's in. Oh no, these are the right ones. Okay. You want to start threading these things in? I'm going to grab a socket that's the right size. Support the motor so it doesn't fall off, and then see if you can get these screws turned any further. Yeah, they're in kind of a weird spot too. Here, I'll hold this, see if you can get that.
No.
You're not able to get in there? Tricky. Yeah, it was not easy to take off either.
It's gonna be the jankiest thing ever.
There you go, now you get it. Don't go crazy because it's just that plastic.
It's not even fully in there.
Okay. Now, the other one might be easier.
No.
That one you can use this if you'd prefer. So what we're doing is just getting the motor attached to the housing assembly here. Just two bolts that hold that in place.
I don't want to go crazy.
Yeah, definitely don't go crazy.
Don't let it just shatter like the last one.
Yeah, I know. Looks like it's sitting a little uneven, but we'll give it a shot. All right, and now this piece mounted on here. I just got to remember exactly how.
Well, you did say you thought.
That it would go.
You thought you knew what to do. No satisfying click.
No, there isn't a satisfying click, but it is bottomed out.
Yeah, it is on there.
Yeah. Okay, so now this will bolt in like that. Which means that goes that way. And then this big bolt goes through. And this retention pin slides right on. All right, so that should be set. So now, so the hard part about this, from my perspective, is this exploded on us. So I don't really know all the pieces involved. I'm guessing you don't either.
Well, what's that thing on the ground?
This is the old housing and the old motor. These two?
Oh.
Yeah, that's old.
Oh, wait, so the new motor's that black thing?
Yep. Yep.
It's completely different.
Yeah, they made them completely different.
Some new Chinese ones.
Chinesium. Alright, I should probably lube this up. All I really have is bearing grease. But
That stuff.
I'm going to try it anyway. So I think you hold these guides on, and I'll hold the left ones on.
Okay.
And then we're just going to slide this whole thing. Gotta get in.
What is it? Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Got it in? Oh.
I think one of the left ones.
Here we go. Let's see. Did it slip?
Put it right down. How do they stay on?
Well, just by virtue of the fact that it won't move too far off the piece. But they need to be able to slide. They don't feel very slidey.
No.
What did this say? The guides actually came with instructions.
Good amount of grease. That's it.
So you think maybe we don't have enough?
Yeah. I'd say that's a fair amount. I don't know.
Just a fair amount, not a good amount?
I mean,
I'll slather a little bit more grease and see if that helps.
there's no point in even wiping it off. That stuff doesn't come off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That really did make a
See?
difference. You're right. All right. Good thing you're here.
Needed to get lubey.
Getting looby with it.
No diddy.
Oh, can you take the light off? That won't work, will it? It's working. Sorry, we sort of ran out of video footage. We're running the dregs here. But I hot wired it with a little jump battery. And we were able to get the mechanism to crawl up. So right, that was the problem, is that the carriage, this piece here, was not, it was releasing the hood or releasing the trunk, but the carriage wasn't coming up with it. And so that meant when we went to go put the hood down, it wasn't engaging the latch enough to actually drive it down. So now we have to figure out why isn't that motor coming all the way back up. So I got a little wiring diagram stuff to look at, but it will close once for now because we've hot wired it into the right position. So Declan's going to give it a close and it'll close.
It will close.
There we go. We're closed. That's the big thing.
And latch it.
Because now you can drive it. I just filmed like a good 30 seconds of stuff. We're not filming it. And Declan just whispered to me, the camera's not filming. Yeah. So, at least he gets to drive the Camaro again tomorrow. He had to take the Nissan today and the battery was deader than dead in that. So he'll get to take this tomorrow. All's right in the world. He just can't pop his trunk. Yeah. All right, guys. So welcome to my new quick performance rear end, which, as you can see, is not quite a rear end yet. So let me tell you a little bit about this, and then we'll talk a little bit about what I'm going to do next for you guys. So I really wanted to get a different rear end gear specifically on the Chevelle. The reason for that is that what's in there today is a 256 gear ratio rear end, and it's an open differential, which means non-Posi, only one wheel spins. So when I do those nasty burnouts with that new 383, it's a lame one wheel peel burnout. Quite lame. Well, the 256 is actually fantastic on the highway. I mean, that thing runs at like 65, 70 miles an hour, like a dream, cruising around at like 1900 to 2100 RPM, somewhere in that range, depending upon what I'm doing on the highway. So it's very, very tame on the highway, very, very easy to drive on the highway. But if we're being honest, I don't drive it on the highway a ton. And really, I'm more street cruising with that. And for street cruising, the 256 gears are super tall. And being that tall a gear, it means it's actually tough to get the power in that motor down at the lower end from a dig. It just doesn't want to go because that ratio is just not there for us. So I did want to get a Posi rear end, and I wanted to up the gear ratio. I wanted to go something into the threes at least, something above 256. So last year in the early springtime, I looked around at getting my 10 bolt fitted. And that's something I didn't want to mess with. I didn't want to do that myself. There's an awful lot of finickiness dealing with lash and spacing for that rear end, and you can really screw things up. I've never done it before. I didn't have anybody close to me who's done it before, so I didn't want to take it on. I went to a local rear end shop, which is trusted around here, and had a lot of people tell me good things about, and they gave me a quote. And the quote for replacing that rear end with a Posi and for upping the gear ratio to, I think it was 323s in that 10 bolt, was going to run me $2,500 installed. Now, it's actually not really bad when you think about it. I mean, if you look up the parts for those 10 bolts, parts alone are going to run you $1,500 for the parts that they were quoting to put in there, and then you've got all the labor to actually do it and put it in and stand by the work. So it's not like it was a crazy number for them to give me. However, I just couldn't see spending that much money and still having the same 10 bolt rear end housing. Now 10 bolts are fine, and I don't beat on my car, so I don't really worry about the 10 bolt falling apart on me. But I looked up Quick Performance, and you can get a full rear end set from them with an upgrade to disc brakes in the rear and the Posi and 3.5 gear ratio, and it was not a lot more money, even shipped. So this was like a nearly free upgrade to getting disc brakes as well as a new rear end. Quick Performance though has effectively off the shelf full rear end kits that you can get in a Ford 9-inch style. Now this is a Ford 9-inch style rear end assembly. It is made for the 1968 to 1972 A-body cars, so it already comes with the purchase for coilovers, so we don't have to worry about adapting anything. It is already cut to the right length, so we don't have to worry about it fitting in place. This is going to work quite nicely. It's already set up for it. Now, why I went ahead and ordered this from Quick Performance, you do have to sort of put through some specs on what you wanted to order, so I thought I'd take you through what I got for this so that you're on the same page with me. So it's this center housing piece is the new stock style with big web. This, I did not have upper control bushings mounted in it. You can. I didn't because I have them already here for the upper control arms that I never installed on the old rear end. We did have them powder coat the housing only. I did not powder coat the center section. This is a semi-gloss black powder coat rather than the high gloss. You can choose either one, or you can get this bare, or you can get it painted. It's 31 spline axles and a track lock Posi, and this is a 350 gear ratio. We also got a lube locker gasket to go on here. Those don't require any gasket goo to put in there. It came with the correct 5 by 4 3/4 wheel hub studs that we needed. It came with the studs already installed on the axles. Came with the hardware kit, came with rotors drilled and slotted rollers. It's an 11-inch disc brake kit with the parking brake. We need a parking brake in mass to pass safety inspection, so I had to get that. Does come with braided steel lines and the universal parking brake cable kit. So that is the specs on what we ordered. So that's the fun stuff. Now, let's talk about what we got to do next. So you can see I've just got one stud installed here, but that's one of the first things we've got to do. We've got to install the studs into the housing itself. Those studs are what's going to accept and help fasten in the pumpkin or the actual differential. Then we've got to actually insert some axle seals in here. Those are what's going to keep the axle fluid inside the housing where we want it and not leaking out. Then we've got to install our axles. Again, 31 spline axles. Those are all set up for us. They're actually sitting right here waiting. So we've got to install those. We have some backing plates to install onto the ends of the axles, the axle housing, to secure those axles in place. That's going to keep them from sliding back out. Then we can install the gasket and the pumpkin into this piece. And then we can install the brake kits. So we can get the brake kits fastened. I can put the bushings up here. And then once we've got all that stuff done, then we'll actually be ready to go ahead and install this in the car. So what we have here is two different types of bolts and nuts. The first that we're going to be interested in primarily is going to be these wheel studs. Well, they're not wheel studs, they're studs. And these are designed, as you might be able to see, with these flutes or splines up near the head. And the idea is that you pull this through the hole, those splines sort of dig in to the housing that you're inserting this through, and they are not going to move. So once they're inserted, they won't spin, they won't back out. This is basically the same type of thing that is keeping the wheels in your car, in most cases. So these go on through the back of that housing here and stick up just like so. So the concept here is pretty simple. We're just going to slip a couple of these washers over the stud here once we've put the stud through where it needs to go. And then we've got this sort of sacrificial nut that we're going to use. It's not really sacrificial. We're going to be able to use it over and over. We're putting the washers on here just as sort of a separator so that we're not going straight up against the housing, so that we have a little bit of area to spin. And then I'm going to use the impact gun and we'll put this straight on. Change of plan. I decided that I don't really like the way these are going with the impact gun. I think they're chewing up the studs, so we're just going to do this with a wrench or ratchet. It'll take a little bit longer, but should keep everything intact. So just a note, you know, take care with this stuff because you don't want to chew all these up. Alright, so these here are the axle seals. They actually came shipped on the axle, conveniently enough. And these are going to sit inside this housing. So let's see, can you guys see this? Hope so. Alright, so we want to get these things seated right inside here. Alright, so we're going to start putting this in here. Sliding it all the way in as much as we can, which won't be all the way. It's going to bump up against that ridge and not want to go further. So we're going to grab this bearing plate. And we're going to hit this square. You hear the sound sort of changes when you get it done. Hitting soundly. It looks pretty flatly in there. Let's see if you guys can see better. It looks pretty well seated. All the way even around. Doesn't look like it's warped. And because we use this proper tool, we're not dinged up. Okay, so with the axle seals installed, this housing is all cleaned out on the inside. The studs are all in. Now, it's time to put this pumpkin in, the differential. Now we're using a lube locker gasket, which I haven't used before. These are actually what comes recommended from Quick Performance. And based on everything the directions say, and based on everything that I've read online, you do not use any sort of gasket sealer with this, which is one of the big debates that happens when installing these 9-inch rear ends. Is everybody sort of questions what type of protectant do you use, what kind of seal do you use. Some guys like to use just an RTV, some guys like to use RTV and a gasket. But what's pretty common with the guys who are going lube locker is they say, don't worry about it, you don't have to use anything. All right, so there's only one way this differential goes on. Just oriented with, this is the bottom down here, this is the top of the differential, so I'm just going to slide this over. Worth noting that I've already gone ahead and painted this, so it might not look it, but this pumpkin has been painted. The original coloring on this one was just cast iron, and I sprayed it with my cast iron paint that I love so much. There we go. It's on and we are in. Now all of these need to be torqued down to spec, so we will grab the torque wrench and do this appropriately. But there are going to be 2 bolts here that I'm not going to be able to torque that way because you just can't get to them with a socket. So it's pretty common. Everybody does the same thing. So we'll just have to use the old Risk torque meter and get that, you know, elbow pop to know when you hit it. All right, so we looked it up to be sure, because, you know, being sure is a good thing. And it's 35 foot-pounds is what we got to get this sucker up to, which isn't so bad. The last thing I was using this for had it up to 140, so 35 is like child's play. I also find that 35 is a pretty standard feel for a regular socket. You know, get you in the neighborhood of where you need to be. Pumpkin's in. Or the center section, whatever you want to call it. I like pumpkin, makes it more fun. This is now in. we're bolted together. We have our axle seals in. So now we have to put in our axles, and then we can finish on with the rest of the assembly, which will be the retention plates, and then the brackets for the brakes, and then the brakes themselves, and then finally the rotors. And then we'll have this thing about as together as we're going to get it for now. All right, guys, well, we're back. It's actually been a couple of days since we were working on this rear end, and that's because you saw us messing around with Declan's Camaro, trying to get that tailgate to work, trying to get that hissing to go away. It turns out we were only partially successful on both of those things, but you know, whatever, such is life. We'll fix them eventually. I thought I would sort of show the reality of how, the way that we work, because, you know, he's got school and soon a part-time job. I've got a full-time job. This is often what ends up happening to us. It's piecemeal. It's after everybody goes to bed at night when I can steal some time down here and start working, or it's on the weekends where I can steal away some time where I'm not mowing the lawn or cleaning up the house or whatever other honey-do list item I'm doing. So oftentimes we're bouncing back and forth, and it might take me 3 or 4 days to pull off a project that should really only take a few hours to get done. And now it's going to be time for me to slide the axles into place in this thing. For those not in the know, one of your axles is going to be longer than the other. They really can only go in one way. Now the tubes are equidistant, so this center section really is in the center, but because of the way the gears are set in the center section, they're offset. So it means one of these axles has to be longer, one has to be shorter. The longer one goes in the passenger side, which is over that away. This is the driver's side, which will be the shorter one. I got to figure out which one I got here. All right, this is the shorter, so this is the driver's side, and I'm just going to make sure I put a little bit more of that grease on here. Figure this can't hurt. Alright, so now we're just going to have to give this a few love taps to get this in. There we go. We are in. All right, and now we'll do the other side. So we're back to these guys again. These are the T-bolts. We stole the nuts off of these, if you recall, these little guys, so that we could engage our studs on the center housing. And now it's time to actually use these T-bolts for what they're supposed to be used for, which is to hold on the plates that are going to hold the axles in place. So on a 10 bolt or a 12 bolt rear end, there are clips inside the differential that are actually there to hold the axles in place. So those clips inside the differential hold the axles in, keep them from sliding out. But on the 9-inch, you actually have a retaining plate that mounts onto the axle itself that holds them in place. Kniffy. I need a kniffy. And we happen to have those here. So they give you a nice little kit with quick performance that has all the stuff you're going to need for this job. Okay, so I got myself a little bit more educated. Not so much that you guys got to worry about me, but enough so that I think that I'm going to do this right. And I did that by just going and looking it up, oddly enough, on the Quick Performance site. So we're going to put this in. We're told, again, I did have this correct. You're supposed to have this relief facing towards the bearing. So we're going to get that on that side. The big trick is these 4 extra bolt holes. That's for our caliper bracket. And that wants to be facing towards the back of the car. So we're going to rotate this through, and these are going to come back this way. $30 lbs. Let's get it on. All right, and we're good there. So now it's rinse and repeat on the other side. All right, so that part's easy. Those are on. Now it's time for the brackets. All right, so these attach with spacers. So we've got these bolts with the nylon lock nut and a spacer. And the bracket actually goes on behind the wheel, or behind this bracket, so inboard, not outboard. All right, so we've already figured out this is going to be a fun one. Because for 2 of these bolts, there's no prayer of getting a torque wrench in there. So we're only going to be able to torque 2 of them down to the actual spec. The other 2 are going to be more like guesswork. Well, I remembered I have another torque wrench. I don't always bring it out because this is a smaller one. But in this case, it's going to be perfect. There we go. My other torque wrench actually only goes to 25 foot-pounds at the lowest setting. This one manages to go down to 10. And I think it's a little bit smaller. So I think it's going to work out better for us. Let's see. Next step is getting these rotors on. Well, at the same time, this is both shocking and not at all shocking. I don't have any spare lug nuts, at least not that are going to fit these studs. And I got to keep this rotor in place, so I'm going to go for the old vice grip trick and just try to be careful here. There we go. That'll do it. Get the right ones on here. So where's my bleeder? My bleeder's there. So this goes up the top. So this is the right one for this wheel. And so here it is, the finished product in all its glory. Now the whole thing is assembled, brakes installed, center section installed, even the bushings for the upper control arms are installed. The only thing that I haven't gone through and added into this now is the actual hard brake lines, that are the flexible brake lines actually, and the parking brake lines that need to go in as well. We're going to wait until this is in the car before we install those, because that's going to be a fitment issue. Well guys, my apologies. That was a much longer video today than I was intending to make. Not helped by Declan's issues with his car and those extra issues that cropped up. But we did manage to get most of that stuff fixed and put away. He is driving the Iroc again, and the tailgate is closed, so it's holding in place for him. But we do need to sort out the problem fully. I'll tell you guys what that is, and if it's interesting, I'll show you. We did get the entire rear end assembly all together, so that's actually a pretty big accomplishment, and it puts me in a position of being ready to install that in the car when I want to. I'm still wrestling over exactly when I will do that, because ultimately it may interfere with some plans that I have for travel. So I got to figure out the smartest thing to do, but we'll get there and I'll bring you along when I do. So that will be for later episodes. So until then, keep on throwing wrenches and hit that like and subscribe button if you would. It really helps us out if you haven't already. All right, guys, thanks so very much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.